tremendous base of success. And if you wander around the rest of the business, they're envious. You probably don't see that envy because people have to swim across an ocean to get here, but you are really the envy of all of the other NS labs. Got terrific opportunities ahead. Recently, the IBM Science Advisory Committee complimented this laboratory on its strategy relative to transaction processing as being very well thought out. The only comment they made is, how quickly can you get there? We have an established role in NS. We have established role in IBM. You're a world-class team. We're well on our way to producing absolutely world-class software, and I'm privileged, consider myself privileged to be a part of this team. Now, my personal challenge, as I take a look at what we have already projected for the next few years to come, is rather than being among the UK top 250, I'd like to see Hursley Inc. in the top 200. And let's take a challenge. Let's be $1 billion company by 1994 and put ourselves in the top 200. Now, what I would like to do is something that's, I guess, a little bit different than we have typically done at AEMs, and turn the program over to Tony.
Tuesday, the 4th of June. Here are the news headlines. His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales this morning unveiled plans for celebrations to mark the 50th anniversary of Her Majesty the Queen's accession to the throne in 1952. The Right Honourable Patrick Ashdown, leader of the Centralist Coalition Party, has warned the government of the serious consequences of a further lowering of interest rates. Branson Rail plc blames migrating birds for last week's rush hour delays in its Channel Chopper Paris to London commuter service.
Good morning. As one of the oldest associates of the Hursley Lab, I'd like to welcome you, the newest associates. My name is Tony Davison, and I'm a member of the Hursley House Consultancy Centre Old Hands team. And before we start, I gather that one of you has asked for permission to bring a petrol engine vehicle to the site. I have to tell you now that it's almost impossible to get permission for a vehicle using conditions, so I advise you to make alternative arrangements using the online transport pooling system as soon as possible after this meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to give you a flavour of what your lives will be like as associates of the world's leading software development laboratory. Now, I don't have to prove to you that we lead the world in software development, and particularly in developing the software that lets the world communicate. If you didn't know that already, you wouldn't have been among the 200 people who apply to work here every month. But what I would like to do is to remind you of the range of products of this lab, to give you an idea of the range of opportunities available to you as a Hursley associate. Let's start with KICS. You all know about KICS. You all know that KICS has over 70% of the world's transaction management market. You probably saw last week's Business 21 program that estimated that over 90% of the world's computers are either running KICS or connected to KICS systems. But what you may not know is that any customer can buy their own unique KICS system or have their existing KICS system changed with a guaranteed turnaround of under 4 hours. That's what the KICS to Go service does. Using a series of complex data models developed in the late 1990s by the KICS development teams and in partnership with customers in the various business sectors, the KICS to Go team can take a customer order, modify the appropriate data model, generate a new KICS system, and then shift that system down fiber optic lines straight into the customer's shop, all in under 4 hours. Also helping the world communicate is, of course, person-to-person. The multimedia audio-visual software that enables personal communication and work sharing across the whole range of telecomputers manufactured by IBM and its competitors. I can see that many of you have brought your own telecomputers with you here today, and you'll see over the next few days how we combine handhelds and desk stations person to person, and the famous Hursley workflow system, quality manager, to drive the work of our team wheels, the basic unit of development here in the lab. Of course, what Hursley is really renowned for is its off-the-wall innovation. Now, the phrase off the wall is not accidental, because that's actually the name of the program that we use to ensure that no idea, no matter how crazy it may seem at first, is ever lost. Any Hursley associate can put an idea into the off-the-wall program, and something like 90% of those that are accepted never get to market. But of the 10% that do, well, undoubtedly the most famous is my first IBM. Yep. That familiar range of multicolored, voice-activated, fully recyclable handhelds, preloaded with educational and game software, and retailing at under £50, originated here in this laboratory on the off-the-wall program. Now, the actual product was developed as a joint venture between IBM, Apple Core, and some specialist telecommuter companies. But by getting into the infant computing market first, and by staying ahead with a steady stream of innovation, my first IBM has maintained consistently its 80% share of the market, beating off such rivals as the ICL from ICL, My Little Sony, and the unsuccessful, and I can think you can put it down to its name, Uji Wuji Fuji. But what is it about the Hursley Lab that makes it produce such special products and services? Largely, it's because we only employ special people, and we treat them specially well. Working at Hursley is fun, and people who are having fun are people who are achieving things. Let's talk briefly about how we get things done. You've heard me refer to you already several times as associate. Everyone at Hursley is an associate. There are no managers or supervisors. When you plug into our audiovisual online information system, which for reasons lost in the mist of time is called Lookup, you'll see that we express the lab's organization as a set of wheels, with each of those wheels representing a team. Now, most of the wheels interlock to form a series of internal customer-supply relationships, developing major new offerings like major new products for networking systems in, or new service offerings for the Hursley House Consultancy Centre. Some of the wheels float around in space, occasionally locking briefly onto another wheel for support. Now, those are the off-the-wall teams, using the expertise in other teams to drive their initiative forward. Some wheels are support wheels. They lock together with other teams as and when needed. Now, one of the main support wheels is the lab leadership team, including the lab director and the other business leaders of the lab. The important point to remember is that there's no kind of hierarchy of supervision in all this. Each development team manages its own business, guided strategically by the lab leadership team and helped tactically by the support teams, which in turn manage their own businesses. So let's talk about how these teams spend their day. Refresh my throat. Got one of those ozone throats going around. You have to say first that at Hursley there are no fixed working hours. How each team spends its day is entirely up to that team. Every team has clear targets, and all anyone wants to know is, are you meeting or beating your targets? Having said that, if you work in certain areas, the hours you work are controlled by the kind of work you do. And I'll give you two examples of that, one of which is very dear to my own heart. The Kicks to Go service runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And to maintain that service, the Kicks to Go teams have developed a wide range of shift systems to suit various tastes, including the famous Hursley 40-in-3 system, which is spearheading the drive towards a 4-day weekend. Now, those of us who work in the Hursley House Consultancy sector have to work normal business hours most of the time, and as you can see, wear formal business dress to meet the expectations of our external customers, some of whom have got very 20th century attitudes towards that sort of thing. But for the majority of teams, how they work is something they have complete autonomy over. And many teams work from home, hooking the team together with person to person. We do find, however, that autonomous as they are, and without having any assigned offices or desk stations here in the lab, most teams actually choose to come into the lab very often. Why? Quite simply, that they miss the buzz of being surrounded by so many other creative people. Let's move on now to how Hursley people work and to how they're rewarded for their work. As we explained in your interview, Hursley people are paid by results and by their contribution to those results, and not by someone else's subjective opinion about their performance or merit or something like that. Everybody's salary is made up of a base element, and that base element is currently 80% of your notional salary, and a variable element. That variable element is calculated using formulae agreed with the teams to take into account networking systems and lab results, the team's contribution to those results, and to a lesser extent, the individual's contribution to the team. Now that means that each one of us has a real stake in the lab. And I have to tell you, we have had some lean years when the lab's had lots of products in startup mode, and we've all had to share equally in the lab's struggles. But we've had more good years, seeing average salaries rise well above the 100% mark. And for those of you willing to invest more in yourselves, there is, of course, the innovation contract used on the off-the-wall program. Now, associates on this scheme invest a further 10% of their salary in their own idea, falling to 70% of notional salary. In return, they can share in 10% of the net profit from their idea. Now, the team that created my first IBM are, of course, the Hursley millionaires, about which there was so much publicity recently. Apart from salaries, we have a whole range of non-monetary award schemes for personal contribution above and beyond teamwork, and for team contributions beyond the scope of the team's mission. And of course, we offer a full cafeteria system of benefits. Every one of you will be given a sum of money to spend on the menu of benefits available as you like. And that menu is about as wide as you can imagine, from those you'd expect, pensions, life insurance, healthcare, to a number that are unique to Hursley: personal accountancy services, the Hursley Fitness Centre, and of course, 24-hour day childcare. Before we move away from rewards, I'd like to say something brief about promotions. As you may have gathered from what I've said so far, the old idea of promotion, climbing a ladder of increasing so-called superiority over other people, doesn't exist at Hursley. Moving to higher levels of base salary is tied directly to the skills you have to offer. Whether you're a software engineer, a people leader, a technical consultant, or an admin assistant, your base salary level is determined by your value to the lab. And that's a measure of your accredited skills, and most importantly, your ability to use those skills effectively. Promotion comes from acquiring new skills, either in one particular area, a specialist, or across several areas, becoming a generalist. But remember, the main rewards of promotion are not financial. Financial reward comes from result and contribution. What you get from promotion is greater autonomy, greater responsibility. The best example is the Hursley Fellows. They get 6 months sabbaticals every 5 years to explore new areas of interest outside the lab. That's about all I'm going to cover today. I can hear the tea trolley arriving outside. And that's my signal to start winding up. We've asked you to join us because you have the qualities that we require: creativity, initiative, and probably some eccentricity. Now, you will need to use those qualities to the full over the next few weeks as you look to find your niche in the lab. Now, don't forget to use all the information available to you. Your sponsor, the person who invited you to join us at your last interview, is there as your guide and mentor. Your green badges identify you as probationers. Now that tells everyone else in the lab that if you come and ask them a question, they've got a responsibility to answer that question then and there. And don't forget, you can get full details about how Hursley works, what products we're currently working on, when the restaurant opens and so on from the online information system you look up. And I'd urge you to adopt immediately the one habit that almost everyone in Hursley shares: tuning into the 6 o'clock Hursley News brought to us daily by the communications team. Now you can see Hursley News anywhere in the world. Just plug your teleputer into the telecoms network and select Hursley services. Hursley News tells you what's been happening in the lab during the day, and also has major investigative reports on breaking stories. Communication moles, now there's an interesting piece of Hursley jargon. Ask your sponsors for the origin of that. Communication moles have the authority to go anywhere they like, ask any questions they like, and report exactly what they find without any interference from anyone. That's one of the reasons why they've won the Corporate Communications Award for the last 3 years. One final word. From what I've said, you're probably thinking, Hursley sounds like a very challenging place to be. That's because it is. There really is no room here for the kind of 9-to-5 person who likes to know exactly what they're doing next, who likes their work to be closely supervised, and who just accepts the status quo. But for creative people, who like excitement, challenge, and change, the rewards in terms of personal achievement are very great. Here at Hursley, we lead the world in the number of our people who chair conferences and standing bodies, the number of complementary references in the mass media, the number of other development labs that use us as their benchmark, the number of new products we bring to market, the market share of our products, the customer delight in our products, and all the financial measures, profit, revenue, return on investment, return on assets. But these are just numbers, and numbers don't tell the real story. You joined a lab where people enjoy working. I can give you numbers for that too as well if you like. Morale levels, attrition rates, and so on and so on. But you don't need numbers. You just need to walk around this lab, talk to the people who work here, and feel that creative energy. We're proud of what we've achieved at Hursley, and we're delighted to share those achievements with others. Welcome to the team.
Wow. That was terrific, Tony. Now I know I'm in the right place. Well, we've taken a look at where we've come from. We've taken a look at